What happens when revenge turns into love? Let's find out in this 2013 K drama series called Secret Love. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another review on the Review Garden. First, let's start with Minyuk. He is a rich guy who is in love with Jihi, who is his girlfriend. But his father does not approve of Jihi that he is dating. Jihi comes to see him one night after running away for 6 months. They're supposed to have a conversation, but they didn't meet. Also, that night, let's welcome in Dohoon and Yoojung. So, Dohoon and Yoojung have been dating for 7 years. 7 years. He is a, he is studying to become a prosecutor. The person who's been by his side for 7 years and has been working a lot of part-time jobs to support him is Yu Jung, right? She has hopes to marry him one day. The night comes, it's their engagement night. So he finally proposes to her after 7 years. And right before he starts his new job as being a prosecutor. It was raining that night. After he finished proposing, he had a couple of drinks, and then he was driving. The windshield wasn't working, so he stopped um, to check and make sure that it could start working again. But it was pouring really hard, right? And in this whole time, while he got it working again, they were driving the car. He she was telling him how much she loved him, but he wasn't really answering. But his eyes were also not on the road that night. So then comes a big truck. This big truck almost causes this big accident with them. She, well, he gets out of the car to go check what's happening, right? And then doesn't come back yet. So that means Yu Jung also gets out of the car. And he tells her, I thought I told you to stay in the car. And, he tells her that it was just a barrel that was on the road. So they moved it to the side, right? And they got back into the car and drove off. Next thing you see is the assistant of Minyuk telling him that he found Jihi, but she was on the ground. She was taken to the hospital, and the doctors tried to operate on her. But they told him that the baby inside of her did not make it, and that they would try to save her to the best that they could. But the fact that she was on the ground for so long, they don't know if that could be possible. Come to find out, she was on the ground for 3 hours. They didn't find her until 3 hours after the accident happened. So now the police are investigating this crime. They find Minyuk, with his money, he was able to get, the important information that he needed. They, he, him and the cops were talking. They found out who exactly were driving the car of interest, the car who did the hit and run. You also find out that night that Do-hoon did see a person on the side of the road. So as they avoided trying to collide with the truck, they hit Ji-hee and threw her to the side of the road. He saw her on the side of the road and decided not to call the cops. So now they're investigating. One of the cars, the person who owned the car that Do-hoon was driving, is Yu Jung. Because, like I said, 7 years she's been taking care of him and his sorry family. So, with all the evidence pointing towards her car being at the scene, because also there was damage on her car, she tried to take the car to get the windshield done, but she took it to the wrong person. And that also helped, the cops kind of narrow down who was responsible, and which also made her look guilty of the crime. Now, I should note that Minyuk and Yu Jung have met each other before this accident. She was his substitute driver, and they also met um, because she worked at the toll booth. So he saw her there as well, and he gave her his ring to hold for him as collateral. So when he saw her on the sheet of paper of the potential suspects, he he went to go see her. He also saw her in the police station, and she was saying that she didn't see a person. They hit this thing, and that pretty much are giving her opinion of what happened that night, right? So this man Do-hoon, on the other hand, is supposed to be the prosecutor, and he gets to be the prosecutor on her case. Now starts the whole now starts a whole new thing, a whole new, how should I put this, cycle of events, right? So, what does Do-hoon do? I mean, he did try to tell her, like, hey, no, let's figure this out. But, Yu Jung is a committed girlfriend. Well, I should say fiance, because, she took the blame for him because he was the one driving that night. He was the one driving drunk. But she thought that, their love could withstand so much that she took the blame for him. And that she was like, oh, save me, save me, you could save me, right? Okay. So Minyuk, on the other hand, he wants her to suffer for killing his girlfriend and child. But she's still not picking up on the fact that that's why he's doing what he's doing. She's thinking, like, he is being mean because of their previous encounters. He wants revenge on her. So, he's going to Dohun and he's trying to make these negotiations. This is just the beginning. He's making these negotiations on, pretty much trying to get her to stay in jail and for her to get the right, how should I say, verdict, because I think for that crime you get a minimum of 5 years. So fast forward, pretty much Dohun gives her 5 years in prison as the prosecutor on the case. Now, while she is in jail, I guess I should rewind a little bit. We have to introduce Seyun, who is supposed to marry Minyuk, right? So she is a lifelong friend of Minyuk, but her father is also important. And they are supposed, Seyun and Minyuk are supposed to have an arranged marriage. She has been in love with Minyuk for the longest time, and she had to deal with him liking Ji. She had to deal with him, um, being in love with Ji and never truly being in love with her. And I'm not trying to make her seem, sympathetic, because she's not. But I figured we could introduce her. The other person to introduce is Dohun's mother, who has never been good to Yu Jung, which is weird because she pretty much took care of your kid, and she comes to your house and cooks for you and does all this stuff, and you're over here trying to set him up with another girl after she supported him, literally supported him. She worked a bunch of jobs just to pay his bills while she has a sick father at home. Like, give me a break. And you're over here, after he's made it as a prosecutor, you want him to get a better girlfriend. So, um, so now we fast forward back to Yu Jung getting 5 years in prison for the death of Ji Hee. And in that time, she finds out that she's pregnant. So now she gives birth while she's in prison. And the first 18 months of the child's life in was in prison. They, I guess, where she is, they allowed the babies to be in the prison up until they are 18 months. Then after that, they have, if no one comes to pick them up, if there's no one to pick them up, they go into foster care. So the eight after the 18 months is coming up, she is due up for parole. But Minyuk doesn't want her to get out. Minyuk still wants her to suffer because of everything that he lost. So he goes to Dohun and tells him that I don't want her to get out at all. So you need to figure out what you have to do to get her to stay inside. So in a way, Minya kind of kept his hands clean because he didn't make the decision. He gave Dohoon a choice. Have her stay in for more time because somehow Dohoon got to be on the panel that was going to get her out. So he was like, do what you need to do. You can either let her go and miss this opportunity, or you can keep her inside and I'll introduce you to these people. So what does Dohun do? Because he craves power, he decides that it would be best for Yu Jung to stay inside. But all he could have done was just deny her access, right? Because when it came down to the voting, there were five people. Two people said yes, two people said no. So he was pretty much the deciding factor. So he was pretty much the deciding factor of whether she stays inside or not. After she comes back from her appeal meeting, um, she went to her child and realized that her child was crying a lot. Then the security guards came and opened up the child's clothes, took off the child's clothes, and saw that there were a lot of bruises on the child. So they kind of blamed that on her. So they took the child away. And, you know, it was, quote, her best, I'm not going to say her best friend, but her friend in the in the in the prison who did that to the child. A little bit later they show you that she got a recommendation to go to a different prison, more like a vocational trading school. So in exchange to what happened to the child, to having the child getting taken away. And there was another lady there who wasn't really, Yu Jung's friend in the beginning. And she was the one who helped her out. She noticed that the other one was being shady. So she tried to burn her with a with an iron because they were in the ironing room. And then, Yu Jung, she's such a good person that she likes tried to take her away. And then, the instead of the other girl getting burned, she gets a really big burn mark on her shoulder. But it was almost like she couldn't feel anything because the the adrenaline from like losing her child and asking where is her child, like all of that came into play. And then they fast forward to when she gets out of prison. And Dohoon did come see her when she got out of prison, and so did Minyuk. He was just waiting outside. But Dohoon just kept saying, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. I'm like, you the one who did not allow her to get out, technically. So then, she's like all excited to go see her child. Then Dohoon takes her to the foster place or adoption place, and they tell her that her child passed away from sepsis, I think. So she is like devastated. She is, oh my gosh. So, and the mom, Dohoon's mom, tries to, tell her like, you need to get stronger, you need to do this, you need to do that. And I'm like, lady, get out of here. Get out of here. So, you know, she mourns her child, and they tell her where they dropped the where the body, after, because she said she got the body cremated, so they told her where they, dropped the stuff. So she went there and took a little bit of the sand and kept it as her child. So in this whole time, Minyuk is like following her around, and he's being mean, and he's doing all this stuff. She finds out that all her debt is also switched over to him. And she also finds out that he pretty much, her house, he bought the building to her house. Her house had a bakery at the bottom, which is where her father used to bake all this bread. And like when she went to prison, he he when she went to prison, he pretty much got worse. His dementia got worse, and so on. So it wasn't really pretty to come back to. So now she's trying to look for jobs in different places, but no one's hiring because she has a record. So when she figures out that, her loan is with Minyuk, she goes to Minyuk to try and negotiate how to pretty much pay everything back. And she's still not figuring out why he's doing this. And he's like, don't worry, it's gonna come to you why I'm doing this, right? So then, she's still feeling um some way with Dohoon, and he keeps apologizing. He's still, trying to take care of her father. But her father's getting worse. So she had to take her father to the hospital. Her father, um like, he was getting worse. So, but before that, before she took him to the hospital, Dohoon went and got her father a medical bracelet just in case, he ran out, and and anyone found him. They would be able to call him and let him know where he's at. And this is important. So she takes her father to the hospital. She doesn't have the money to have his surgery done, right? So she tries to go ask Minyuk for help. Then she noticed in her father's jacket that the ring that, Minyuk gave her 4 years ago. So she only ended up spending 4 years in prison instead of the 5 years. So she realized that the ring was there, so she tried to go get the ring pawned. But Minyuk's stepmom, had that specially made. So he so the person contacted the stepmom. So the stepmom called Yu Jung, the rich stepmom, trying to tell her, where did you get this? Like, you tried to sell a $150,000 ring for $4,000? Ah. So then that's when Minya comes in and pretty much takes her away. And, she's like trying to plead with him, kneeling in front of him, asking him, help her take care of her father because da 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 da. So then, her father runs away. Now it's also important to note that Minya did find out that Dohoon and Yu Jung are dating or were dating. So he got her to he was like, okay, I'll give you the money for your father. I'll add it to your bills or whatever. So her father runs away, and Dohoon ends up getting, because of the bracelet, they called him and he pretty much figured out where the father was. So he goes to get the father. It was also raining when he was getting the father, and the father was like, you know, you better not put my daughter in trouble again. I know that it was you driving that night and not her, but she took the blame for you. So you better not do it again. And he's like, you remember? He's like, yeah, I remember, and I know exactly what happened. So with that, they kind of show you, you know, Dohoon driving off, and then next thing you know, Yu Jung gets a call telling her that they found her father, and Minya gave her a ride there, and come to find out it was at the she found out that her father passed away. So she had to go and identify the body and make sure that it was actually her father. And you see, like, on his feet, like there was so much blood. And so whatever happened, he left him there to pretty much die, is what happened. And he took the medical bracelet off and threw it in the ocean. So this man not only let her take the blame, sent her to 5 years in prison for something that he did, and then also killed her father. And then that night, she also found out, that night, or maybe that same week, she finds out that it wasn't Minyuk who co signed for the girl to do that to her child. It was actually Dohoon who did it. So you mean to tell me you not only let her take the blame for you, you let her father die in the road, and you had someone beat up your child, your 18-month child, just so that he could get taken away. And you think, like, you're all right? Like, it makes no sense. Like, what do you think you're doing? And it's also important, yeah, like, what do you think you're doing? Who do you think you are? And you know when she got out, it was like a scene where he just like grabbed her and started making out with her, kind of like, oh, I haven't had, you know in 4 years, let's have it now. And then once he saw, you know, the burn mark on her body, he just like stopped. Like, now she wasn't good enough. And that's the messed up part. Now she wasn't good enough. And even that's what the mom, she's not good enough now. But before, when she was taking care of you, taking care of your education, she was good enough. When she was taking the blame for you, she was good enough. And then he has the audacity to tell her that, oh, you're dragging me down. Like, I don't want to be chained by that. And she's like, well, it's your actions that are chaining you down, not me. And then it's Dohoon and Young who are like getting closer. But the idiot doesn't realize that she is also using him, because he wants to be closer to her, but she's like, no, I have to marry Minya. Like that's the sole purpose as to why I'm doing all the bad things that I'm doing, is to get him to be closer to me. So once she is made aware, once Yu Jung is made aware of what Dohoon has done to her, she wants to join forces with Minyuk, and in the process of her doing that, Minyuk is still trying to figure out what exactly happened. And Dohoon has done so much bad things that one thing to note, he left the prosecutor's office and became the lawyer that's on Minyuk's dad's company, so the K group. And he's just causing a lot of bad things to happen in the company. So even the other attorney that's in charge, that's higher up, he's even collecting, you know, information on Dohoon. So you have a lot of things at play just in case Dohoon steps out of bound. And I think what annoyed me the most is, how long it took Yoojun to figure out that Dohoon was bad. And when she joined forces with Minyuk, I mean, I get it. You don't want to tell him everything that's going on, but still, communication would have been great. And also the fact that once they get the dirt that they need, they don't use it. So Dohoon is the only bad person in here that used the information that he had. It wasn't until the end that Yu Jung started using, the informations that she was getting to sue him for what happened to the father, right? But Minyuk, he had umpteen opportunities to put Dohoon in jail, but instead he goes to him and says, "This is the information that I have. I can put you away." Okay, well, Dohoon comes back with, "Yeah, you're going to put me away, but I'm going to go after your daddy's company. Are you going to save your daddy's company, or are you going to save Yu Jung? Like, who are you going to save?" I'm like, it could have, like, watching it in the beginning, it was great, but towards the end it kind of lost, and it got that they're dragging it now. You're dragging it to 16 episodes because you could have put this man away for the crimes that he did, but you didn't. You're still letting him roam, and even and what's his name, even collected information on him. The other attorney collected information on him. Minyuk had that information. And instead of using it, he just left it there. Like, he could have been in jail, but he wasn't until episode 16 when Dohoon turns himself in. And the only reason he turned himself in is because he realized the BS that he did, right? Because he finds out that his child and Yu Jung's child is not actually dead. His sad excuse for a mother went and took his child and gave it to someone else, and told the both of them that the child is dead. And she has the audacity to be like, "Oh, I did it for you. I did it for you. How are you going to live knowing that? How's your child going to live knowing that he was born in prison? How's your child going to live if he knows that his mom was in prison?" I'm like, lady, that's not your choice to make. Like, Who do you think you are? And how would Dohoon even raise him? Huh? I'm like the mom was just the worst. The worst. And it's actually sad because Dohoon's father was the actual, yeah, the only good person in the three of them. But Dohoon and his mom, and I think all she got was a fine because it was her first offense. And I don't really remember how long they told you that Dohoon went to prison for, but in reality, he should have gone to prison for the death of the girl and the fact that he left Yu Jung's dad when he was technically his guardian. He just left them on the side of the road to die. So he should have gotten a lot of time. And now let's talk about, the love story that they put forth, right? So Minhyuk and Yu Jung pretty much fell in love. So from revenge to love, right? Because I guess I'm trying to figure out when exactly he fell for her, right? So he was always following her around, knowing what she was doing. And then with him getting all the information on her, so he found out, everything Dohoon did to her, and you know everything she's doing, um when he would use her to also, because every time he would be having an event and he was trying to get on Dohoon's like side, he would bring her to the event, right? So there are multiple occasions, and when she's like, she was like going crazy, like, why are you doing this to me? Like, do you, like, kind of like, oh, you're tormenting me, you're doing this, you're doing that. And there was that moment where she ran across the road. She didn't even care, she got hit by a car, and he was trying to stop her. And he started crying at the fact that she was acting like that. So in those moments, I think he kind of started falling, because he was like, he even told his assistant, he was like, why am I doing all these things to her, trying to get revenge, but I'm the one hurting? You know, like he became obsessed with her. He became obsessed with trying. Well, at first, it was obsession trying to get revenge, but then it was just obsession trying to be near her, trying to protect her, trying to, save her. And with this love, comes a lot of other things, because the grandfather, I mean, his father doesn't approve. His father wants him to marry Seong, and he doesn't care about Seong like that. He doesn't want to marry her. At first, he wanted to marry Jihi, and now he wants to marry, he wants to be with Yu Jung, and he's telling the father, like, don't do anything to her, you know, don't, just leave her alone. And the father just doesn't want to accept Yu Jung. And I feel like, okay, even if like you find out later on, like, just leave him be. He doesn't want the company. Like that to me is always weird, when they force their kid to take over the company. And it's like, if the kid doesn't want to, you have another person that's more than qualified to take over the company, but you don't care because you want your child to take over it, and he doesn't care about the company. He even was like I'm going to protect this one. Don't touch this one. But, when you're rich, you have the power to do many things, even if it's not, reasonable or acceptable. But in the end, they were able to be together after, the dramas in that time. They always needed to take the break, the year break, and then come back and be together. So he went abroad to go work in the father's company, and yeah, he came back later. The other lawyer became see, and that's the thing, he let his daughter be with the lawyer, which I'm guessing since now he's the CEO, since he's the president of the company, he's deemed worthy. But he always kept him as that's why he didn't want him to take over the company in the first place, because he wanted his son. But you allow your daughter to be with him, but you're not going to allow your son to be with who he wants to be, even after they found out that she wasn't really the reason. And and it's crazy because he's like, you know, she went to jail for, like, I'm not saying it's right, but it's like, okay, the person, never mind. Um, but yeah, the it's just weird the way he didn't want him to be with someone without money because he believes that not having money will drive them crazy, because that's the story he told, Minyuk, that Minyuk's mom didn't have anything. And then the whole reason he started the first hotel was for Minyuk's mom. And then after that, she never like smiled again. She just wanted out of the relationship. So they didn't really go into more details of what happened with his mom, but he blamed him not wanting, someone poor on that. But let's get into the rating of the show. First, let's start on a realistic note, right? From his point of view, wanting revenge on the person who killed your girlfriend and child, then realizing that, okay, the person you thought it was is not the person that actually did the act, right? I mean, in that sense, it kind of made sense that, love can flourish out of that, love can grow out of that. But from her perspective, you know, he made you go through a lot of pain. But I guess that's how the story wanted you to feel. Like the stuff that were happening to her in the beginning, you thought that it was Minyuk doing it, but then you ended up finding out that it was actually Dohun who did it. So I mm, I wanted to be like, okay, someone getting revenge on you and then you end up falling for them. That's kind of like a weird, story, and you're always going to have like you had something to do with his ex-girlfriend's death, you know? And it's so the story was good in that it touched on a lot of heavy things, right? The fact that she also gave up her child when she found out that her child was alive. And, when she went to go see her child didn't remember her. So that decision right there to say goodbye, well, not really goodbye, because she's going to be a part of the child's life, just not as a mom, but as an aunt, right? So she's still going to be able to see her child. And hopefully, when the child is of age and can understand, you know, then she can break the news that, yes, she's his mom. But you already know there's going to be a lot of questions later on about what happened. So she's going to have to open up to the child with that information. Um then you have the whole storyline as a whole to examine. Was there growth in any of the characters? You know, Dohun just kept getting worse and worse and worse. Like he just kept going at it, and he was just unbearable. Un and he was just, I guess he was trying to get more power. He was trying to make a name for himself. He was like, I grew up poor. I didn't have anything. I didn't have what you guys had. And you guys just had everything thrown to you on a silver platter. And you're still not happy. So I gotta take what's mine. And it's just like, and what the lawyer told him, he's like, um you know we came from the same place, but I at least know how to be loyal and how to say thank you to the people who helped me get here. You, on the other hand, you seem to forget on whose back you got to where you wanted to get. And what's her name, Sion, she didn't, I mean, towards the end she finally let Minya go, but all of the BS that she kept doing is to, you want to tell me because you love him? So because you love him, you tried to damage his family's reputation. Because you love him, you tried to do all these bad things to him. Like, it's an unrealistic, but I mean, granted, there may be some people out there who do think like that. And then, growth with um Yujun, right? She her you know, she's a nice person. She's a nice person, and she was a nice person throughout the whole thing. And I just wish, I know when she found out about her dad, like that kind of made her be a little stronger, but I kind of wish like she had more oomph, like she went full on, because them people said some mean things to her. And even Minyuk told her, like, stop saying I'm sorry, I'm sorry. Like, there were many moments when she was saying I'm sorry, I'm like, what are you apologizing for? These people are saying this thing to you because they think they're better than you, because they have money, not because of them actually being better, just because they have money. So like her character, like it should have been, I wish even towards the end she got bolder. Like slash a tire, like slap you know I think she only slapped him once. Slapped, what's his name? Yeah, and she let the other girl slap her. I would have slapped her right back. Like, who do you think you are? And even the mom, the quote stepmom, like, You don't have the power to even say anything to me, especially since, like, why are you even here, you know? So yeah, I mean, her character should have been a lot more vengeful towards the end, especially towards Dohun, right? Because of all the pain. Like, I would have, that mom would not have made it out alive, like Dohun's mom. Like, no. To do all of that, no, no. Pushing her on the floor wouldn't have been enough. You know what I mean? Like, for the bullshit that these people made her go through, I would have rather have her be more. Er. And then Minyuk, I mean, you kind of saw his growth through the show a little bit. I mean, he definitely got more mature, I will say, because, he tried to tell his father that I'm going to go work where no one wants to work, just so that the father can, like, leave him the hell alone. And, just go to another country or something with the girl. Something like that. But anyway, so I would rate this show a 9.5 because 9.5 out of 10. I've seen this show before back in 20 back around that time frame. Cuz this was made in 2013, so I did watch the show around the time when it came out. And when you watch a show and then you watch it again later on, you definitely have a different opinion or you have a different mind frame when you're watching the show. And I do remember liking it, which is why I watched it again. Um, but yeah, so I do like it and I will watch it again. It was just it was just like when you're trying to relate to a character or when you're trying to put yourself in the character's shoes, you kind of wish that they did more because, like, maybe you would do more. But other than that, the whole storyline, it was good. It was just towards the end I felt like they were trying to prolong it and in the wrong ways. Because if you had all that information on him, you should have sent him to jail. Not him, not him saying, "Oh, I'm going to turn myself in." Like, that's not the way it should have been. For me, you know? And this wraps up our journey on the Review Garden. Thank you for joining me today as we explored this drama. If you enjoyed this reaction and review, please remember to subscribe for more insightful videos. Don't forget to like this video and share your thoughts in the comments below. Your feedback helps our channel grow. As always, I'm truly grateful for your support and for joining me on this journey on the Review Garden. Until next time, and happy listening. Bye.